talked to me like I was real. She saw me for who I am, a stranger in this city with a lucky dime, a stranger with a story and a song that rhymes. Oh, she saw me with my lucky dime. Oh, she saw me with my lucky dime. I took out my harmonica and played some tuneful blues. She clapped along as the quaver soared. I think I became her muse. Oh, she saw me with my lucky dime. Oh, she saw me with my lucky dime. Lucky dime. Oh, she saw me with my lucky dime. Oh, she saw me with my lucky dime. Lucky dime.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. It is, for me anyway, it is January 28th. For you guys on the eastern side of the world, it is, sorry, the western side of the world, not eastern world. It is the 27th of January still, so you lucky people, it is tea time for you guys. For me, it is just 7 minutes past midnight. I apologize for the short delay. I was running a little late getting in here, so sorry about that. It's been a busy day here. I have had my artist guy called who goes by the name of Analog Sync. He's been in here pretty much all day, and we've been just doing some vocal overdubs to tidy up some of the vocals on his songs, and we're about ready to master his album now. So that's going to be happening tomorrow. That's my day for tomorrow sorted. Plus, I have a whole bunch of session work to do as well. Got some piano solos to do for another client for his record. So it's all busy here today, and it's, as I say, it's midnight here, and I was chatting for about 2 hours to my client after we stopped recording. We're just talking through the whole process of the album so far and that kind of stuff. So it's been pretty good, pretty valuable time spent today. So yeah, and at the same time I quickly did a video which I put out earlier this afternoon. My YouTube channel has just gone past the 2,000 subscriber mark, which is awesome. So thank you guys very, very much, everybody, especially you guys that come to my show. You guys are awesome. You are the elite of all of my subscribers. For the fact that, just simply for the fact that you turn up here and you comment and you ask great questions. Martin says, which do you do more, regarding session work? Jonny live in the studio or via email? Yeah, I'll answer that question in just a minute. Jonny says, hit the like button. Absolutely, thank you very much. Jonny has appeared twice on here as the Studio One for Learning Library and as himself. Awesome. And Dwight is saying it's a very nice track. The instruments placed nice in the track also. Yeah, this one is done. This one's in the can and mixed and ready for mastering, as I say, which will be happening tomorrow. So I've been kind of drip feeding over the last couple of shows, a couple of songs from my client's record. Because he's a very cool dude. He's from Glasgow, but he's been here in Edinburgh for, I don't know, maybe 20 or so years. He went to school with my wife, and so they know each other fairly well, actually, as it goes. And he was in Hong Kong for about 5 years, so all the songs for this record were recorded in a studio in downtown Hong Kong, and they sent the files to me. Now, they have really slow internet over there, in certain areas of Hong Kong anyway. They have really slow internet, so it took maybe a couple of days for me to get all the stems for each of the songs. So it was like I had to basically spend a week waiting for these stems to upload from Hong Kong. But it was really great to be able to work with two different studios, several thousand miles apart, and still be able to pull together a really, really good album. And so, as I say, we did some vocal overdubbing today on a couple of songs, where some of the vocals just didn't really cut very well in the original recordings. There was some noise or some such in the background, and it just kind of spoiled the recordings. So he came in and he redid the vocals. So it's all worked out really well. So I have no idea how many people are in watching just now. So if somebody would like to post the number, that I'd appreciate that. I could go and look, but you see, unlike Jonny, I don't have Chrome up and Studio One and OBS all up at the same time on my computer. It would basically, my computer would pretty much start sweating profusely if I tried such a thing. And I think I did. My earlier shows, I did do that, but I wasn't using OBS, so it's easier to do that. But now I can't do that. So you guys are saying somewhere between 23 and 25, which is pretty cool. So every single one of you, I want to say a big thank you to you for helping me get past 2,000 subscribers. So the last I checked, I was up at around 2,005 subscribers, which is fantastic. Now here's the cool thing about this. It took me about 4 years to get to my first 1,000. And it's taken me only 10 months to go from 1,000 to 2,000, which is just staggering. That just blows me away. That there is such an interest in me and what I do and the videos I make. I think it's ridiculous, but anyway, I very much appreciate it, and I really do appreciate the support of all of you guys. You guys are fantastic. I really appreciate your comments. I appreciate the likes on the videos, and I really hope that ultimately what I do helps you, serves you, helps you get better at mixing, mastering, recording, writing songs, the works. I really hope it helps you and encourages you. That's kind of what it's here for. Otherwise, I may as well be in bed right now. So shows like this is what my Sunday Night Live is all about. My Sunday Night Live is all about you guys. It's a chance for me to engage with you almost one-to-one, as good as one-to-one is going to be for the moment, until we can arrange some kind of grand meet-up, which would be awesome if we could just like book a pub somewhere. Or here's an idea. Let's just build one in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Let's just build a pub in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. We'll float it, and then you guys can hire a boat and come out to the pub, and I'll come out and meet you halfway, and there we are. We'll be in the pub, and we'll have this fantastic, great big home studio trainer, Persona Studio One, Jonny Lipsham Studios party, and then we'll trash the pub. So, so for now, this is what we will do. So really, my show is my opportunity to engage with you and talk to you guys and to answer your questions and help you guys out as best I possibly can, outside of making videos. So this is really an opportunity for us to kind of talk. So I really hope you find this valuable. The fact that I have 25 people here really helps. So really, essentially today's show is all about celebrating getting to 2,000. And that's essentially it. We might well look at my friend's AudioSync's songs and how I mix them. Like maybe we'll take a wee look at this one. This song, by the way, that you were listening to is called Lucky Dime. And it's kind of got a nice sort of jazzy, kind of disco kind of flavor to it. I quite like it. It's maybe a little bit late 90s acid jazz kind of thing going on. It's kind of hard to define, I think. For me, anyway. It's got that sort of acid kind of drum loop to it, which I really like. And then there's some nice muted trumpet on this, which is not me playing, by the way. I would like to have played this muted trumpet part, but number one, I don't have a trumpet. Number two, I don't have the correct mute to be able to do it. So it's basically a couple of loops that we then pitch down at a few points, just to make it sound a little bit cool in places. So yeah, so we can go through that and we can talk your questions. And just Bob with the $20 donation, who says a penny for every subscriber. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And your maths is superb. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm just going to move my pop shield a little bit. Alrighty. So let's maybe pitch a start straight into your questions. And I do have, believe it or not, I do have a question graphic. So I'll let you kind of look at that whilst I set up the questions. All right, let's see. Martin Weeks with the first question. Well done, Martin. He says, I'd like to review working with the VU meter for clip gain control. The VU meter is fantastic, actually. Definitely. So we can take a look at the VU meter. I quite like the VU meter. I don't use it maybe as much as I'd like to, but I do actually use it. So for example, we could stick it on this drum loop. If I can remember where the darn thing is. Close that, don't need that right now. V for VU, there it is. VU. There you are. Now the VU meter you can actually just put right across every track as your first slot. And then you can calibrate this guy to -18 or -6 or -12. And basically that would make 0 to be equal to either -6, -12 or -18 dB. And the cool thing about that is that you can use it to gain stage. So you can set it to -12 if you've got like a load of tracks, an absolute load of tracks. You can set it to -12, and as you're clip gaining, you can be watching this guy, this needle pump up and down. When you see it kind of beginning to peak round about 0, you know you've hit that -12 sweet spot that a lot of people talk about. I don't really think of it in terms as a specific target that you absolutely must hit, and if you're short of it or if you're over it, then you're naughty. I don't really think of it like that. I think of it much more in terms of, hey, it's a guideline. It's just a base reference point. So that you've got like a platform. I call it, a lot of people call it gain staging. I call it platforming because I want to have a nice level platform for all of my audio before I even start touching faders and the pan sliders. So with my raw audio, I'll use the actual events here, and I'll move them up and down until this is up at 0. When it's up at 0, then I know, hey presto, we've done it, and I can move on to the next one. So I tend to I mean, there's no real order to doing it. I mean, this doesn't have a whole lot of tracks. This has only got like 11 tracks plus a printed reverb and delay. But really, it's only 11 tracks of audio. I mean, I could gain stage this to 6 if I wanted to -6 because the track count is so low. But I think I did this one to -12. And I basically started at the bottom and worked my way up. And with each event, as soon as it's on average, the needle is hitting 0 dB on its peaks, then I'm good. I'm happy with it, and I just move on. I move on to the next event or the next track or whatever. And that's essentially how I would gain stage using the VU. To be really honest, I don't use it. I probably should, but what I tend to do is because I've got my fader port my hand is pretty much parked on my fader port at all times. So just like with a tap of my finger, I'll start to play the event. Let's say I'm going to gain stage this trumpet part. So I'd solo this guy up. I'd hit my play button. And I would just check where it's hitting at, you know, and it's actually in this case maybe a little bit under. It's probably about -18 this one. So but you know what? I'm happy with that. And it sits nice in the mix, as somebody said. I can't remember who it was who said it, but yeah, that's pretty much where I go with the VU meter. So I hope that helps. I'm just going to scroll down and get some more questions. And I'm going to go back to lounge to this view so you can see me. Hello. Let's see. I have one hand on a trackpad for my laptop and one hand on my mouse. So you guys were talking about slow chat mode. Yeah, slow chat mode is basically, if I have it in slow mode, that means I have more time to read the comment before it gets you know, buried by other comments that pile in. If there are lots and lots of people in the chat, like for example Warren Hewitt's Produce Like a Pro streams, when he does his streams, you know, there can be like 400 or 500 people in there, and the comments just pile up. It must be really hard for him to read. So I think what he does is he just picks out whatever his eyes fall on as something, a comment that's noteworthy for a particular thing that he's talking about. And I think that's how he operates. But really, if he had slow mode on, it would mean that people could only post once every 15 or 20 seconds, which means there's a 15 or 20 second gap before the next thing is coming up on the screen, which means I've got chance to read whatever it is. And then I can store it away in my head, and then the next comment comes in. So that's essentially what that's all about. And so that's why I use it. But I mean, really, there's not very many people in here comparatively. Mike Neighbour's here. He was. He's probably not now because he said he had a whole bunch of things to do. So, but if you're watching the replay, Mike, good to see you, buddy, and thank you for popping in to say hi. Appreciate it. Let's see. There's lots of people here. I'm going to go and name check people in just a minute, but I want to try and get to questions. Let's see. Let's go back down the bottom. Oh, and the whole thing has just jumped. I hate it when that happens, as Johnny Guy will attest. Just Bob said, how do you print reverb and delay? That's a great question. How do you print the reverb and the delay? You record your reverb and your delay to a separate track, I think. But these were sent to me, so because the guy that did the production, he did all of this in Logic. So he basically sent me everything. So he basically did export stems, the Logic equivalent of export stems. And when you export the stems, one of the things it does is it comes up with all the options of stems that you've got, including your reverb and delay channels. And so when you export that, it exports the reverb and delay channels. So that's kind of how that works. So that's why I have these sent to me here as separate channels. Hang on, you can't see what I'm talking about. So that's why at the bottom of the screen here I have these two channels here. If I was to turn them both off and play just a little bit of this song, it would sound a little bit flat, especially the synth. Sounds a bit dry. And the drums sound a little bit flat. Alright, so if I go back. Okay, so you can really hear kind of the difference, particularly with the synth. The synth is just flat and dry as a bone, but that bit of just that hint of reverb is enough to give it a little bit of color and interest. So, yeah. So there you go, printed reverbs and delays. They're great fun. Let's see. Bobby Booth is here, and he says, the only meter I use is the one on the fader. Yeah, I tend to use that one as well, the most. I could use the VU meter. I guess coming from analog consoles, that's what I used the most. It was the VU meters, because that's all we had. We didn't have these nice little fancy peaking ladder meters. You know, we just had the needles, the VU needles. So that's all we had back in the day. Just Bob says, can you print, record, reverb, and delay on a separate channel in Studio One? That's a good question. I don't know. I assume you probably can. I assume you probably can. I don't know for certain. Johnny Guy, there's one for you to test and maybe do a video on. But yes, I think you probably can. I have never done it. But I assume that you can, because when you let's go back to this. Let's go back. Because when you go back to the screen and then you go back into Studio One, and I think it's track. Is it track? Or is it, where is it? Song. If I was to do export stems, does it show up if I'm using... No, I'm not... See, in this song, I'm not using any other actual native Studio One reverbs or delays. Like, I'm not using any sends. But here's an idea. Let's just make one. Let's just make one in this song. Let's what should we do? Let's go, and we'll go add effects channel. I don't know whether this is going to work, but it might. And I'll stick a room reverb on here just for the sheer darn heck of it. And I'm just going to pick a random preset. I'm not going to route anything to it, I don't think. But let's just see if it does this as export stems. This will be interesting for me to find that out. Export stems. Oh, it does. There it is. There's the effects channel. So, yeah, when you do export stems, it does allow you to send an effects channel as a stem. So there you go. I figured you could do it in Studio One, but I wasn't really sure. But how would you actually go about printing this particular track? That's a good question. I don't know. As I say, I have never done it. So feel free to experiment, guys, and let me know what you find out. But I certainly have never done it. Okay, so that was a pretty good question. I like that one. Johnny says 31. Cool, awesome. I think that might be a record, you know. I think we've never actually gone over 30, so that's very cool. Johnny says yes, you can. That's awesome. Excuse me. Carl says, was at a free concert this afternoon at the local county library, 2 hours of the Weaklings. Oh, awesome. I love free concerts. I don't get out very much to free concerts, but that's spectacular. She Studios, that's Sheila, she says, I got 33 watching. Well, that's fantastic. I'm pretty sure that 33 is a record. I'm hopeless, actually, because I've been keeping stats on attendance records for Johnny's streams for quite a while. You know, I just note them down. I note, hey, that's the peak number of viewers. That's great. So I knew when we broke a record, like when we went past 50 for the first time on Johnny's regular streams, I could go in the chat and say, that's a record. And I could say it with confidence because I knew it was. Whereas for my own shows, I haven't been making any notes. But I'm pretty confident I have never passed 30 before. So this is really great, guys. Thank you so very much, all of you, for coming out. And we're about halfway through the show now. So that's awesome. Bobby says I saw up to 35. Well, that's wonderful. Just Bob says, I think that'd be a great way to control vocals and other instruments. What, to print the reverbs and effects? Yeah, you can do that. You know, the only thing with printing stuff to bear in mind is if you decide that you've overdone it and you have washed everything in reverb, you can't go back. So make sure that you've got it right, that your settings are correct before you go and print anything. You know, I'm a big believer in if you're recording, like if this record had been recorded here in this studio, I would have printed a lot of the vocals with EQ and compression up front. Just to make the mix a lot easier. And just because I like to get I would like to get a nice controlled balanced signal going in, and to have the vocals sounding how I want it before we even get to mixing. If I can get the recording to such a high standard and to the right kind of tonal qualities that I want up front before I've even hit the record button, and then when I hit the record button then it's printed, then I don't need to mix it. I don't need to do any After Effects. I don't need to do any post-production EQ or compression or anything like that, because I've already done that up front. So if I can do that as much as possible, then I will do, because it just means that their mixing is essentially just, you know, it goes back to what mixing always was in the early days, like in the days kind of before the Beatles cut their first records. You know, essentially mix engineers were just they called them balance engineers, because all they did was they just balanced the faders, because records were in mono back then, so, you know, there was no panning to be doing, so you just balanced the faders, and you balanced all the volumes. That's what you did. If you didn't have faders, then you had a bunch of volume knobs, and you just controlled all the volume knobs of your 8 tracks, and that was it. And then that went down to a 2-track master tape, and that was it done. You know, so yeah, I like the idea of going through EQ and compression before you go into the DAW. So, you know, I will often put EQ and compression on the inserts when I'm recording into Studio One. So, but I mean, each to their own. You know, you can do it completely dry and then do your EQ and compression afterwards in a kind of non-destructive way, because then you can really overcook it and then go, I have overcooked it, and then roll it back. You know, so that's, you know, there is merit to both methods, in my opinion. Let's see. Just Bob says, this give me a cool couple of ideas. Separate channel with VST as a bus and automate the bus to bring in and drop out the effects. Certain areas for accentuation without doing a lot of cuts. Yeah, you could do it that way. You could do it with automation. Like, you can turn off a reverb for, let's say you've got this really big song, and then you decide to have what they call a down chorus, where you strip everything back to maybe just an acoustic guitar and the vocal. Well, what you can do is you can just turn off all the ambient effects on the vocal. So you get this nice, real intimate, dry sound that makes the listener think that they're having the words whispered in their ear. Really intimate. You can do that, and then when you go into your final big chorus, you turn everything back on. You can do that with automation. I've done that in a couple of songs for my client, Analog Sync, actually. And it's just, it works really well. It just adds extra weight and extra character to that final chorus, plus it gives the ear a wake-up call when you get to this down chorus, because, you know, there's quite a lot of dynamic, you know, quite a loud dynamic for most of the song, and then you just drop it down and the ear is refreshed and reawoken, re-engaged with the song, so that last chorus hits home. So, you know, as much as that's a production concept, that's also a mixing concept as well. Dropping out the reverb and the delay by maybe automating the bypass to do that. It's a really great little trick. Definitely got a value to that. Lots of plosives on my vocals tonight. Yeah, I'm sure there probably are. I am using this, but I have got this quite up close. And I am kind of like right on top of the microphone, which I'm not normally. So, ooh. There we go. Just Bob is talking to Kirk, which is cool. Talking about effects. Jonny says effects on the inserts of a track doesn't get printed. I guess it does if you have that option via the the FAT channel with a Series 3 mixer or the Studio 192. I think you've got that option where you can print the FAT channel effects. I believe that is true. RJ Hagler says, first time recording this afternoon with at least 4 Presence pianos. Took forever to get that song to the project page. Should I start rendering VSTs? You might want to consider that. Those Presence pianos, there, plosives again. Those Presence pianos do have, I know what I'll do. I'll turn the mic off axis a little bit. That might help. Those Presence pianos do eat up a lot of processing. That's fairly well known, I think. So if you've got like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 instances of Presence, might be worth printing if you're happy with what you've got. Be honest, my personal opinion, this is what I do, is if I'm happy with a track in Presence, is I will just print it ASAP. If I will go, great, that's the part I want, and I'll render it straight away. Transform to audio, get the instrument out of there, and then if I'm really, really happy with it and I decide I'm definitely not going to go back, then I'll Control B it. And then I can't go back once I've gone back that far. Just Bob deleted a couple of his messages, but Dooley still is here. Hey dude, good to see you. Yeah, Jonny confirms if using a Series 3, yes. Robert Overbeek is here. He says, I have a riff that goes E, B, E octave, E flat, B flat. Sounds haunting. I've made a chord to drop to and arpeggiate. That is made of B, D sharp, A sharp. Any ideas on a particular scale that will work with this for fill? Okay, so you've got E. Oh, I'll take the phaser off. We don't want the phaser. So you've got E, B, and what did you say it was? E, E flat, B flat. So you're going. So it's essentially kind of like by implication that's an E major 7, but you've got the sharp 11 in there as well. So here's a scale that you could try, actually. It's like an E major scale. But instead of playing the A natural, which you would ordinarily play in an E major scale, you'd ordinarily go E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Instead of playing the A, play the A sharp. And that is the Lydian major scale. Believe it or not, that is E Lydian major. Which actually fits nicely over just a straight sort of E major 7 chord. It's a scale that Sting is fairly fond of, actually. Used it in a couple of songs, like I think he used it a couple of times in Desert Rose, if you're familiar with that song. So there you go, and it resolves to B rather than the B flat 4. Okay. Yeah, I think that scale will fit very, very nicely. Woodby says not a cool chord. What, E major 7 with the sharp 11? Yeah, it's a lovely chord. RJ says I did the JG trick, cut some voices on Presence. Yeah, that's another good way to do it, actually. It's just reduce the number of voices in the polyphony. It's a good idea, that one. I like that. Robert Overbeat says, thank you. Excellent. Well, there you go. Hope that works. Martin says, wouldn't a simple transform to audio fix that slow upload problem without having to completely print out the MIDI track? Yeah, it might well work. It might well work because transform to audio removes the instrument as well, particularly if you have that checked. Make sure in your dialog box you have the remove instrument checked. That way, when you transform the audio, it unloads the instrument from Studio One altogether. Even though the MIDI is still underlying, the instrument is gone. And you can revert at any time and it will automatically reload the instrument. So you can do it that way. It's just my personal thing. This is what I do. You don't have to do it this way, but this is what I do. When I'm happy with a MIDI part, I not only transform it to audio, but I print it completely. So it is locked completely as an audio track. Because I have no intention of going back, so why have the CPU load? To me, that it doesn't make sense. But if you think that you might go back and make some adjustments to the velocities, or you may want to change some of the notes, maybe, and you're still not 100% settled, but you want to lighten the load of the CPU or the RAM, then transform to audio is a great option. But for me, this is just the way that I write music. The way I write music is that 99.9% of the music's already written up here. So Studio One for me is a piece of paper. I'm just getting the music from here to come out of the speakers, and that's what Studio One is for me from a writing perspective. So for me, when I'm putting in MIDI parts, I know exactly what I want because it's already written, and I'm not going to change it. So I'm just literally transcribing what's in my head into the instrument, and then I'm done. So I'm not going to change it, so I print it completely. That's just the way I do it, but you don't have to do that. Because you guys probably won't have something completely finished before you're getting it into Studio One. You'll want to experiment and try different things out. That's fine. That's absolutely, totally a legit way to work. And most people do work like that. I'm just weird, and it's all done in my head first. Sorry, guys, it's just me, okay? Jonny says, transform uses no CPU, just the bounce. Yes, just like the bounce. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, both will work just the same. Whoopi says, JL, that's too cool, thank you. Mine says, I do that a lot so I can make stereo 2-track and test it on Ian's loudest penalty site, then go back and see if there's a problem that I didn't catch when mixing. Yep, that's a good idea. Sheila says, and Steve Lath is here, I believe. He is indeed. Hello, Steve. Good to see you. And Sheila's replying to him saying that she's going to get 8 to 10 inches of snow tonight and all day tomorrow. Well, and you put a sad face after that, and I totally understand why you'd put a sad face after that, because that much snow can be quite disruptive. But, you know, that much snow is also a heck of a lot of fun. Especially for the inner child, and for those of us that have just never grown up at all, like me. Ken says, I'm much less familiar with editing audio, much more comfortable with MIDI. Can you do essentially all the same things with audio, or is there more functionality to MIDI? Good question. They're two different beasts. They are two different beasts, really, to be honest, which is why you have two different editors, which is why you have an editor for MIDI and an editor for audio, because you kind of treat them a little bit in different ways because they are different languages, I guess. But, you know, they ultimately end up in this with the same at the end. The end result is the same. It's audio. And I think with audio, you know, if you want to increase the velocity of a single sound, a single part of a sound in audio, then you would cut that piece of audio, and then you would increase or decrease the gain as you want, and then you crossfade it. Whereas in MIDI, you just grab the little velocity bar and drag it up or down. or you move the notes slightly to the left, slightly to the right, slightly more in time, slightly more out of time, depending upon what your needs are. In audio, you kind of do, it's similar, but it's not quite the same, if you follow. So there's like a different methodology to achieve the same result, I think is the way I would put it. Jonny says, you can do more these days with audio like you can with MIDI. Lots of improvements in the last 5 years with things like audio bend and time stretching. Yes, absolutely. Audio bend and time stretching are probably the two biggest developments in audio processing in DAWs, I think. And it's interesting. It's of interest to me, anyway, that kind of the big developments have come from either former Steinberg developers or current Steinberg developers. Like Elastic Pro, I believe, was created by Steinberg. The whole VST concept was created by Steinberg, and every DAW uses it now. Everybody uses it. And it seems to me that it's the Germans that are leading the world in audio DAW, audio digital technology development. So, I mean, that goes for as much Steinberg as it does for Presonus. Presonus being fundamentally, the software side of things being German and the hardware side of things being United States based. But it's German software development that is leading the way at the moment, and I think that's actually fantastic. Robert Obeek says, snow and freezing, no mosquitoes in the woods. I love it. Yeah, definitely no mosquitoes. That'd be great. Whoopi says, I'd love to master that concept. Awesome. Sheila's corrected that to 8 to 10. 8 to 12. Awesome. Of snow. Wow. So you might be having a snow day. Kenmore says, thank you, JL and JG. You're very welcome. Thank you very much, Jonny, for your input into this discussion via the chat, actually. Very much appreciated. Hey, you know what, Jonny? What you and I should do is, you remember a couple of months ago, I had you as a guest on my show? We should definitely do that again. That was hilarious. That was great fun. Definitely, we should do that again. Dooley still says, Rycote makes the fair mic covers for outdoor high winds. I use for recording when pop screen doesn't cut it. Yes, absolutely. They are the best in the business. And they look the ones for outside broadcast. They look like dogs on a stick. They're amazing. Let's see. Sheila says, no school for my kids, and your sister is a teacher. Yeah, I really feel your pain. Just in March last year, we had, I think, 12 or 15 inches of snow. Certainly where we live, it was 15 inches. I know a little bit further outside the city from where we are, and we're on the outskirts, they had like 2 feet of snow. And their schools were closed for 2 weeks, as was ours was closed for 10 days. And, my kids go to the school just down the road. It's literally a 5-minute walk away down the road. And they couldn't get to school. The school was closed, and they couldn't have got there anyway, because our road was totally blocked up and totally impassable. And so it meant that I couldn't do any work because I had to be on hand to keep the kids entertained. And yes, we did go out a lot in the snow, and they did some snowboarding and all of that fun stuff, but man, I just didn't get a lot done. When you have a day job and you have to take time off of your day job to look after your kids because they are off school because of snow, that's bad enough. But when you you're working from home as well, that's kind of, in that case, that's my day job. That means I have to shift my work that I would normally do in the daytime to the nighttime when everybody's asleep, just so that I make sure I actually get work allocated for that day done. Otherwise, I start missing deadlines, and that's bad. So let's see. Dogs on a stick. Yeah, sorry. Poor analogy. Martin says 30 watching and 27 likes. Yeah, well, you know what? I think we had, at one point, we had 35. So it'd be nice if we could get some more likes. I'd appreciate it. And you guys are talking about collaborating with Oren. That's great. Oren says, what's your favorite way of collaborating with effects via email? I use Dropbox. And I have a really simple way of collaborating. Like, I mean, I've already been talking at least a little bit here about, you know, how I do session work. I'm going to show you kind of how I do it. Hang on just a minute. Let me close this song. And I'm going to say no to that. I'm going to go create new song. Don't worry, I'm going to share the screen in just a minute, folks. Because I know you're going to be saying, go to screen. Yes, I know. So I'm going to show you, I have a really simple way of working. So I'm going to open my files tab. I need that. And I need to get a track open. Calling it Vox will do just fine. And I'll turn the monitor button off. Otherwise, we're going to get all of that stuff. We don't want that. So I'm going to turn that off. I can still hear me, which is fine. So let's say, and I'm going to open this folder as well. There we go. Okay. So let's say somebody wants some backing vocals. Let's say, for example, and this does happen. I do get asked to sing, to basically harmonize myself, which is great fun. You know, I'll maybe layer 3 or 4 part harmonies together, and I'll send those together to whoever the mix engineer is. So let's say I'm just going to do just a little bit of backing vocal, just for example. So they'll send me this. They'll send me the track that I'm to record to. So they'll send me an MP3. I'll bring the MP3 in here as well with this vocal track. And they'll send me the tempo. Let's say the tempo is 100, just for argument's sake. And so what I'll do now is I will just hit the record button, and I'll be singing the part that the artist wants me to record. And when I'm finished, I hit stop, and then I check it. So I unarm the track, just hit the record button, and I'll be singing the part that the artist wants me to record. And when I'm finished, I hit stop. There we go. And I hit stop a little bit early, but that's okay. And so I would normally have a folder here that I have shared with the client. This is a dummy one here that just says client folder, but it's just a dummy folder because I've used this for demonstrating this a few times now. But I mean, for example, I have a folder here with Brad Brown where I've done. I did a mix on a cover that he did, a Jefferson Airplane cover of Coming Back to Me. So I did that a while back. So I've done a few, but let's just use this dummy client folder for now. So let's say we're happy with this, and I will just and let's say they want some EQ and compression and that kind of stuff. Well, I can print that to the track. Let's open up the mixer. Let's close that. Oh, I just deleted my track. Damn it. That's stupid. Go to my history. Oh, there we go. There we go. Brought it back. Okay, there we go. All right. So, sorry about that. So, let's say we want just a splash of EQ. We don't maybe want to compress this, but let's say we want a high pass filter, and maybe roll off a little bit of extra beef because I'm close up to the mic, and we'll call that a day there, and trying to remember how to do this. Transform to rendered audio. And there it is, done with a splash of EQ. I just right click the track, and I go to transform to rendered audio, as you saw me do just there, and then you saw the EQ disappear because it's not needed anymore, because the EQ is now baked into the track. And I can now go to files, and I can now just click and drag it, and off it goes. And I can just watch here, and in a few short seconds that'll be gone. There we go, done. And now it's in the Dropbox, ready for my client to pick up. Martin says, doing harmony and backing tracks prompts a question, can I use layers and then record the harmonies and just bounce each one to new tracks? Probably. That's not how I would do it. That's not at all how I do it. I create individual tracks, and it's easy enough to do. Let's say I'm going to do another harmony part on top of this one. I would just go duplicate track, and then do that harmony part. And then, so I would, I'd hit the record button, and I'll be, I'd arm this to record, and then I'd hit the record button, and I'll be singing. I'll be singing the part the artist wants me to record, and when I'm finished, I hit stop, or whatever it is, and then I'll go, great, okay, I like that. Now let's go duplicate track again. Next part. And we're on to the next one. And then, so I've got like 3 harmony parts, let's say, and now I just send them off. Exactly the same method. And it doesn't really take very long to do either. So, there you go. That's how I do it. So I hope that helps. Martin, Orin, to whomever this is of any great interest. That's how I do it when I'm doing my session work. And I'm just cleaning up this song here. There we go, because I don't need it anymore. I can go close. Don't want to save. No. Yes. There we go. Done. Okay. So I hope that's helped. Mine says thank you. Appreciate it. Yep, that's just how I do my... I mean, I do that whether I'm doing backing vocals, or whether I'm doing a piano part, or whether I'm doing bass, or guitar, or flugelhorn, or clarinet, or sax, whatever it might be that the client asks me to do, or iwi, whichever, whatever they might want me to do. That's how I do it, and I've got it down to a fine art now. I've got it down to a drill. You can do layers, and then particularly if you're doing a solo. Let's say you're doing a tenor sax solo or an alto sax solo. That's an occasion where I might use layers. I'll record takes to layers, and I'll loop the section that I'm supposed to be blowing on, and then I'll maybe blow for like 4 or 5 minutes. So I'll maybe have amassed like 10, 15 layers at that point, and then I'll just comp the perfect take out of those layers, and then I will join all of those little bits together in my perfect take, and then that is what I send to the client. So that's an occasion where I would use layers rather than sending them all the tiny little bits and get them to comp it. Well, I'm the improviser. I kind of know how to shape a solo, so I would do it that way, and take a little phrase from each take or whatever, and comp the perfect solo, so to speak. And that's what I'd send off to them. So I hope that helps. And Orange Shackman with the $25 donation. Thank you, buddy. You are so cool. Appreciate it. And he says, you rock. Thank you. Thank you very much. Frank Wagner says, on Vulgar Parts, download free trial version of Little Altar Boy from Sound Toys. Any opinion? Changes the pitch of a voice or a singer's gender with formant shifting. I have heard about this. This is actually something I have heard about. And I think it was my good friend Marcus Huskins who he did a review of it a while back, maybe even a year or so ago. And I thought it looked pretty cool then, and I just haven't ever got round to it. but it is a trial version, which means it will eventually run out of its trial, and then I'll be like, damn, I have to go buy it. But with what? With money I don't have, I can't do it. RJ is saying, is that politically correct? Does it really have to be? Just Bob says, good night everyone, dinner is ready. Congrats again on 2,000 subscribers, wishing for many more. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's only taken me 10 months to add 1,000 subscribers. That has totally blown me away, because to get to the first 1,000 took me 4 years. You know, nobody was really interested in my YouTube channel until I did my series on Studio One 3.5 when that launched. Because I basically got a series out right away, pretty much as soon as it had launched. I got a series done, so that, you know, there was interest. People were wanting to know what this, you know, this fantastic new version of Studio One was all about. So I got a lot of subscribers that way, and then a lot of people have carried on watching my videos from then. So that's really cool. And then my Studio One 4 series took off as well. So, you know, hopefully I'm putting out the right kind of content to you guys that you're enjoying, that you're finding useful and helpful. But as I keep saying, and I'm going to keep saying it, please, if you have any ideas for videos that you would like to see that would help you answer a specific question, or would help you develop a particular skill or a particular technique, then please email me at johnny@jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I would really appreciate it, because what I would like to be able to do this year is I want to put out one video per week for the whole year. So that's at least 50 videos or so. That's my intention. And I would really like it if every one of those video suggestions comes from you guys, because that means I'm putting out videos that you want to see, rather than me kind of going, hey, I feel like making a video on this subject today, and you guys going, yeah, I don't want to watch that. Yeah, I don't want to watch that. You know, I'd much rather that I put out something that is going to serve you and is going to interest you and stimulate your creativity and get you working and getting you better at this craft of recording, mixing and mastering. So that's my idea, that's my intention. So please do email me. I'd love to build up a nice list of videos that I can just start making. Alright guys, so we are at 1 AM, which would be 7 o'clock Central Time. So our time is done. And I want to say a very big thank you to everybody who has come out. And I think we definitely broke a record, because I think we got to about 35, I think it was. I think that's what we peaked at. 35 viewers. That's just amazing. So I am extremely appreciative, and as I say, I'm blown away by the fact that I have made it to 2,000 subscribers. And Johnny Guy says in great big capital letters, great show, Johnny. Thank you very much, mate. 35 total. That's definitely a record. So that's awesome. And Roger Blevins says, thanks, Johnny, and congratulations. You guys are all very, very welcome. And Bobby says, maybe get another 1,000, but maybe in 5 months this time. Yes, wouldn't that be great if I could get to 3,000 in half the time again? That'd be great. So maybe you guys can help me with that by spreading the word about my channel. I would appreciate that very much. So I'm going to say a good night at this point, and I've lost my mouse pointer, so I can't even move on to the next screen, which is a bit annoying. But anyway, thanks guys, thanks a lot, and I will see you on Wednesday night at 6 PM Central over on the HST live streams channel, where Johnny and I will be doing yet another fun-packed, fun-filled, and probably at least a teensy bit hilarious songwriting simplified show. So be there or be amusingly shaped. Good night, guys.
Hey there, did I get too close to you? Did I move too quickly with my love? Did you feel insecurity when you could not see the shore? You swayed away when I fixed my gaze on you. You tried to look to some distant star. That's when you said goodbye. That's when you said goodbye. I entered into your sanctuary. I wanted to see beyond your veil. When I wanted to look you in the eye, you pushed my every love away. Was this a show you didn't want to be in? An actress in unemployed, a stage without its audience, a symphony with no string. That's when you said goodbye.